Hi, I'm Marianne Clyde. I'm a business coach from Business Your Way. And so I've been asked several times how I had 3 Amazon bestsellers and how hard is it and what do you have to do to write a book and how does it become an Amazon bestseller? And here's the straight story. There are many ways. We're going to start out with a few ways that you can actually write a book if you're starting from scratch. I wrote each one of my books here in a different way. The first one, Peaceful Parenting, 10 Essential Principles. I decided I would narrow down what I wanted to say about parenting to 10 things you need to know, 10 things you need to be in order to be a good and attentive parent. Because there's so much you can talk about. Sometimes when you write a book, having 10 things in common or 7 ways to do something or 3 points you want to make, people respond to numbers. They like to know exactly what they're going to get. So I decided to start with 10 essential principles. And the book was not so much about parenting techniques, is the characteristics you have to be a parent. And then I decided I would essentially make one characteristic per chapter. And then I knew to get to close to a 200-page book, I needed to write X amount of words for X amount of chapters. And so I had in mind the amount of quantity I wanted to have for each specific topic. And then I found myself, I had a lot of blogs available. I had a lot of, I was called Mommy Zen at the time. So I had a lot of blogs that I had written, articles I had written, a lot of content already circulating that I could use as a main foundation for that book. So I developed one chapter at a time about each particular principle I wanted to write about. I collected stories and blogs and illustrations of things that I wanted to say. And then I decided I would give myself a target of 3,500 words a week so that I could be done by a certain time. And I was having trouble staying on track, essentially. I would get distracted. I'm a big picture person and I'm distracted easily. So what I did was I called an author friend of mine, Susan McCorkindale, who had several books published of her own at that time. And she was pretty well known in our community. And I thought she was a very credible author, very good author, even though mine was a nonfiction book, hers was a nonfiction book, but hers was written in a humor style. Mine was written more in a how-to style. So what I really wanted from her was accountability. So we decided every week I would send her 3,500 words that I had written. She wasn't an editor for me, although she did have skills at editing. So I would send her the books, the things I had written. She would send back with maybe a couple points. The main reason was not to edit the book at that time. It was just to keep me accountable, just to get the quantity and essential quality I was looking for. So I did that first book that way, and it turned out to be, I wanted to self-publish it because there's less red tape and easier to get on the market quicker. And so I self-published it with Amazon, which was CreateSpace at that time. It's now called Kindle Direct Publishing. So I hired people to do editing. I hired people to do page layout. I hired people to create the cover because those were not my gifts. I'm not a great editor. I'm not a great wordsmith, essentially. But I did have content. I do have expertise. And so that's what I based my book on. And then I hired people to do the rest. When you self-publish, you can do what you're good at and hire out the rest. You can still do that on Kindle Direct Publishing. And so that's what I did. CreateSpace was very helpful. Got myself an ISBN number through CreateSpace. I told them what I wanted the cover to look like, and they worked and worked until they made it happen. They ask you what your preference is about the layout of the book and that kind of thing. And so that's how we did it. And I wrapped that book up and I put it out on the market. And then book, but you. Nobody's going to care as much about the sale of your book as you do. But I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to talk about each of my other books was written differently. So I'm going to tell you the how I did it in just, a few words or less. My second book, my second Amazon bestseller was Unleashed: Practical Steps to Get Your Life Unstuck. And again, I talked about using material that you already have, using content that you already have. I did about an hour and a half for a 2-hour, might have been longer than that, I guess. But it was a teleseminar that I did on the 10 principles, same 10 principles, but this one is directed on how to get your life unstuck. At the time I was a therapist, I had been a practicing therapist at that time, probably about 25 years, and wanted to use the 10 essential principles, same principles as I used before, but it is how to develop you as a person. That's essentially what I would write about. So it doesn't matter if you're a parent, doesn't matter if you're a business person, doesn't matter if you're a committee member or an employee. What matters is who you are and how to keep a calm, steady demeanor, and how to get unstuck was the main point of that book. And that was essentially you develop those 10 principles, but there's an actual way to get unstuck. So there was a process that I taught on how to recognize your thoughts as they go through your mind, whether you're stuck in eating, anger outbursts, getting offended, gossiping, eating too much chocolate cake, drinking too many martinis at lunch, whatever it is that you feel this is a bad habit for you and you need to get out of that. So I had the process down and then the 10 principles down, and I had taught this on a teleseminar. That was before I did any webinars. And so it was simply a telephone thing. So I transcribed it. I had it transcribed. Again, I'm not a big techie, but somebody could take the content and transcribe it through the recording. And so we did that. We dolled it up to get it in a certain number of sections. I think it was delivered in like 4 different sections of maybe 45 minutes each. And that was divided into sections, and that was divided into chapters. And it's a very small book. It's only as long as the teleseminar was. So it's a quick read, and it has good practical content that I had already developed. And I just repurposed it into a book. And again, what I used a publisher friend of mine who was just helping me get the editing done and the cover done and that kind of stuff. But I actually published it through CreateSpace myself. And that was the way I did the second book. And again, nobody cares about how many sales you make as much as you do. So I'll get back to that again in a minute. But the third book, Zentivity, was also an Amazon bestseller, but I did not publish it on Amazon. I published it, also self-published it, but did it through Balboa Press, which is the kind of self-publishing arm of Hay House Publishers. And so what happened was this one, I also wanted to use the 10 essential principles, but I wanted to do it for business people because I had done more work with businesses and consulted and did therapy and so forth with business people who needed those 10 essential principles in order to be a calm, collected boss or a calm, collected entrepreneur with really good people skills and really good communication skills. And so I used, again, repurposed the content of the 10 essential principles, but I pushed it, I developed it in such a way as I used a whiteboard that time. And I thought, so what do business people need to know about these 10 essential principles? So I called the book Zentivity. So it kind of was a calm but productive avenue. I wanted people to have a calm, productive workplace. And so I called it Zentivity, how to eliminate chaos, stress, and discontent in your workplace. And so I came up with 10 specific areas that I thought business people would need to know as they implemented these 10 principles. And so I just took the same content as I teach on all the time, because these are principles I think are essential to well-being. Again, whether you're a parent, whether you're a business person, whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee, whether you're a neighbor, whether you're the head of a nonprofit, whatever it is, you need to be calm and confident and non-reactive and a person of substance who doesn't hang on to behaviors that are going to derail you from your goals. And so again, same content, but geared toward the business person. And that, the same thing with Balboa Press as Create Space. They provided, and I paid for, editing, cover design, rearranging of chapters, layout, and giving the book a professional look. The neat thing about Balboa Press that was not available through Create Space was I could get a hardback copy, which makes a really nice gift. They're pricey, but they're nice if a boss wants to give them to their employees, or they want to give it to somebody as an award, or they want to give it to somebody as a gift. And so that's why I was thinking it would make a great choice to go with Balboa Press that time. But still, I could get the book on Amazon, as you can get anything on Amazon. And so, again, though, I am the one that was responsible for how to make it an Amazon bestseller. And so here now, I'm going to tell you how to make your book an Amazon bestseller. And you have to remember, it's totally up to you. You don't just post your book on Amazon, because there are millions of books available on Amazon. And some of them aren't very good. Some of them are great. But the point is, the books sell according to how they're marketed. And so I recommend you having a mailing list. So if you've got a business and if you've got some friends or community or groups of people that support you, this is why it's really good for pastors who have big churches. It's an easy way for them to get bestsellers right off the bat, because they might have a congregation of maybe several hundred people who are devoted and will buy whatever they want, or they might have an online presence. They have hundreds of thousands of people that will buy their products. So who do you have? First question, who do you have that will buy your books? Who do you have that's supportive of you? And again, even your very friends, you have to nurture them. You have to encourage them. You have to tell them what you're doing and why you're doing it, and to do it. So what I decided was I knew the release date of my book coming up, because they can tell you when it will be ready. And from knowing that release date, within a couple days of that, I set a book buying day. And I sent emails to my mailing list that said, really excited, this book is ready for publication, here's the cover, you can show them pictures of it, what it looks like, how you worked on it. Engage them into your story. Tell them why they should buy your book. And I can get back to that at another time. But you write why you're doing it, how they can participate, and exactly what they have to do. So you tell them your book buying day, because you want to get the numbers up on a particular day. Say your book's supposed to be released July 15th. You might give it a couple of days just so in case there's any snafus and so forth. So then you say, so my book buying day is July 17th, all day. From when you wake up till midnight, you can buy my book. And so you might create an online event, like a Facebook Live event. I had a book signing party for Zentivity, and so that could be videotaped. I could post pictures. So and so is at my book signing party, and I had little people get little videos done of, I read Marianne's book, because I could get some preliminary copies, as you might be able to get as well. And so they had already read the book, so they could already say, I love Marianne's book because XYZ. And so you're getting some momentum going. You're gearing up the energy for your book. You keep your people posted all day, and on Amazon, the numbers change every hour. So your rating changes every hour. So it's kind of exciting as you watch the book sales go up throughout the day. You keep your eye on that, and your rating changes in different categories, because as you list it on Amazon, let me see, for peaceful parenting, it's probably under family and relationships, it's under parenting advice, and I forget what they all are off the top of my head, but so you can pick 2 or 3 different categories. And so you might be number 1 in family relationships, but number 20 in specific parenting. So, but an Amazon bestseller are the top 100 again. And it doesn't matter if you are number 99 or if you are number 2 or number 1. You are an Amazon bestseller if you are in that top 100. And throughout the day, you can watch your ranking in each specific category. They also have categories like hot new releases. So I could sit there with my books and say, okay, now Peaceful Parenting is number 2 in hot new releases, and that encourages more people to buy, and it just keeps the energy up. And then you can actually talk about my book as an Amazon bestseller. Now, I think in order to get a tab next to your title, that bestseller status has to be longer lasting. So in order to keep it up for hours or for days, you need to create that energy that keeps going for days in order to help the sales go up. But it's so much fun to watch your book actually become an Amazon bestseller. And I really don't remember, these were published in 2013, 2016, 2017. So I don't remember exactly the time of day. We hit Amazon bestseller status, hit hot new releases on this, that, or the other thing, or whether I was number 8 or number 10 or number 2 or number 1 in a certain category. But the fact remains that I had hit Amazon bestseller status in each of my own books. And the reason was because I was hyping my own book. I was promoting my own book. I was marketing my own book. As far as for Zentivity, and I had a target market of businesses, I actually hired a a publicist that helped me get on radio shows, TV shows, and that sort of thing. But the fact remains, it is up to you to market your book in a way to your most friendly target audience who want to support you, who want to buy your book, who want to write reviews, because after people buy it, ask them to write reviews, because that actually helps. Because and don't get discouraged if you get a bad review. I mean, some people are just critical. Ask your friends and neighbors and people who actually buy the verified purchase books, so that they're a legitimate reviewer on Amazon. And these are just ways that you can remember to do your own book. And so it was not the TV appearances I did. It was not the radio appearances I did. Those benefited me in other ways, as far as a wider reach, a bigger audience, more people that benefited from my book and so forth. But that was over the course of like 6 months. I created my own book tour that I could do actually in front of my computer or my telephone, because most radio interviews are just done over the phone. And even some TV interviews were done over Skype or Zoom. So that's the way to do it. You are your best friend when you're trying to make an Amazon bestseller. So here, let me just recap for you. There is no one right way to write a book. As you see, I've published 3. I published a book a long time ago that was a very beginner book that I also self-published, and I didn't know any of this stuff about Amazon. But in the last 8 years or so, I have published 3 books that have reached Amazon bestseller status. They were each written in a different way. One was kind of a compiling of blog posts and podcast information and articles and so forth, divided into 10 principles. The second book was the transcript of a recording of a teleseminar on a particular way to get set free from debilitating stuckness in our habits, also using the 10 essential principles. And then the third one was written aimed with a different audience based on the same 10 principles, but the chapters were chosen to specifically address the needs and interests of a business person. They're all not very long books. They're quick to read, they're concise, and they offer great pragmatic information, because the first thing you need is a good product that people are going to be proud to review. People are going to be proud to recommend to their friends, and you are going to be proud to say you wrote it. So don't write just a half-hearted book just to be published, but you are an expert at something. And it could be like if you are a physical therapist and you want to write a book, and you can write a whole series of blogs on specific parts of the body that people can maybe heal themselves. So the self-help physical therapist or something like that. Whether it's parenting or how to replace your toilet and different handyman techniques. You can also, that would make a great YouTube series as well, but you can also put it into a book. The Handyman's Guide to Simple Home Repairs, something like that. You create the sections that you want to write. You give yourself an amount of time that you want to spend writing each day. I mean, right now, I write kind of a journal in the morning, and I write about 300 words a day for that journal, but it will ultimately be a book, because if I write 300 words a day, it will take me about 6 months to have, I think I'm looking at about 60,000 words, which is enough for about a 200-page book. And that's how I can quantify what I'm looking for. Again, I'll have to figure out how to divide it up and so forth, but give yourself goals. Help yourself quantify the information. Do you have 100 blogs that you would like to publish? Maybe make it kind of a devotional for 100 days of mindful approach to yoga or something like that. Or if you have blogs about business tips, for 365 days, you've been writing a tip on business for 365 days. You just say a year's worth of business tips, and you can divide them into categories: marketing, communication, writing a business plan, making a sales funnel, whatever your expertise is. Use repurposed information, because you don't have to keep coming up with new information, because not everybody's going to see everything you do. You have to get it out there on many different platforms so that you can be identified as the expert. And again, do good quality work. Don't be half-hearted about it. Do good quality work. Consult with well-reputed people, whether they're editors or web design or designers of books and so forth. Make sure they have a good reputation and a good record, that with experience of helping authors like you want to be helped. And then go for it, because the world needs what you have to give. The world needs your expertise. The world needs you to develop your potential so that they can be inspired to develop their potential. I always think we develop our expertise and our potential to be an inspiration to others. And I think it's a fiduciary responsibility we have to the world to be the best we can be and share it in the best way we can with the most people we can. And so I wish you the very best. I will do more videos like this eventually. And so in the comments below, just drop any questions you might have so that I can maybe use the next video. So this is Mary Ann Clyde. You can do it, and now you know how. Thanks for joining me.